Wake up weekday mornings from 5 to 9. LI in the AM with Jay Oliver. Traffic and weather every 10 minutes on the 5s. And A Better Life with Dr. Sanjay Gupta on Suffolk County's news and information leader. 103.9 LI News Radio.
And we are back at 8:09. It's my pleasure to have Mr. Brian Macri and Dan Levler from Suffolk County's largest union, the Association of Municipal Employees, with us. And we welcome the guys back to us. Good morning, gentlemen.
Good morning. Thanks for having us back.
Great to have you here. You know, it was last time you were in, we talked about the lag payroll. This was just to kind of bring everybody up to speed. The administration, I guess, of the Suffolk County Executive said it would begin this $12 million lag payroll. I think it was to begin with the April 14th paycheck, if I'm not mistaken. That's where you guys kind of came in and the negotiations kind of got underway, but the lag basically would have eliminated 1 day's pay from each 2-week paycheck for 20 weeks for some 5,000 of the white and blue-collar workers who belong to the AME. And, you know, negotiations certainly have been hot and heavy, Brian, since. And, you know, the one thing I do remember, you know, from the proposal, I know there was, you know, kind of a thing where, you know, it kind of looked like a 12-year interest-free loan when you thought about it from way back. But there was really never any clarity as far as what everything meant there. But now you have a little bit of more of a vision here.
Yeah, we had the plan in place for a few weeks, but then we had to structure it to make sure that the repayment would be over a set amount of time, and it would begin after the first year in equal payments. The idea was that it was going to be 12 years, and there would be future county execs, obviously, and we wanted to make sure that it was in the budget immediately so that they wouldn't be blindsided and say something like, well, we didn't know it was in the budget and not pay back.
Yeah, I mean, Dan, you know, now he talks, you know, with a little more clarity involved because they had spoken about this $1 million a year situation. But really, you know, where was it coming from? Where was it going? Now they put an ending date on it, 2028 the year. Now at least you have, again, you know, much more clarity involved.
Yeah, I definitely agree. There is a lot of clarity. And originally, there wasn't any repayment. The first time around, they said, listen, we'd like to stop making payments to your benefit fund, which our members rely on. That's how they get some of the services that they rely on, dental, optical, some legal stuff, whatever. And now we have repayment. We have a guaranteed no loss of those services. So, you know, they stop paying us for a year, but they have to maintain minimum reserves. They have to keep us for the entire 12 years afloat.
Yeah, I mean, pretty much the county, Brian, is it true that the county pretty much has agreed to guarantee that the benefit fund reserves, which total, $24 million, wouldn't go below the $12 million, pretty much, right?
Right, and that was one of the main focuses of us, is that now we actually have a reserve clause that cannot fall below $12 million, which we never had before. So in many ways, we're actually more buffeted in case of a market crash or anything. So in many ways, we're more sound than we were even now because we do have that reserve.
Interesting. Dan, this was not an easy negotiation, right?
Absolutely not. I mean, it was very public. Our members were getting, different letters. Some people had to, leave after work and come in and sign for having received certain letters stating various different things. Both Brian and myself tried to kind of adhere to the rules of negotiation as best we could and just keep everything behind the scenes, keep it going. But we took a lot of heat. We got a lot of, letters, angry phone calls because there was misinformation. And that's why it's great that we can come here and speak to you, and we did during this whole process, speak to you and just try and clarify some of these points.
Well, listen, speaking of heat, I'm sure the county executive absolutely took a lot of heat. I mean, let's face it, there is big-time budget deficits involved here, all over the place. Why take it out on Suffolk County's largest union, pretty much the infrastructure, when you think about it, of Suffolk County, all the hardworking individuals involved. And, why let them be the so-called sacrificial lamb? Didn't make sense to a lot of people, Brian.
No, and that's why this is just again, this is a battle. The war, again, is still basically we want long-term solutions to the financial deficit because, like you said, you can't keep on going back on the employees' backs and asking us to pay every year. So, we got it out of the contract. That was the other big thing. We have the lag payroll out of the contract. We won't be lagged and we put it to the membership. So if the members decide that they don't want the benefit fund to be hurt, or they feel uncomfortable with that, they have the right to vote. So that's what we want to get it to, so that the employees, the members, have the right. They have a say now.
I can't imagine, Dan, how many phone calls you probably have gotten on a daily basis for the last 3 or 4 weeks.
Well, I will say, predominantly, it's been very supportive.
Really?
People were aware of the work that we were putting in, aware of the pressures that were on us. In a way, some of these letters that mentioned us by name actually had a positive effect for us, because that empowered our employees to call us up and say, keep at it. And now we end up in a position where we have full repayment, whereas there was going to be none. We have protection of benefits. We have minimum reserves. Yeah. It's going to go before the legislature, so nobody can back out on it. I mean, there was a lot of positive things that came out of this hard work, and I'm proud that we stood our ground. I think we finally have a deal that's worthy of consideration of all membership, regardless of which way they vote.
Yeah, no question about it. So it goes to the members now, Brian. So what do they have, a couple of weeks now?
Yeah, they'll have till the 29th, I believe, or the 30th is the date where the ballots have to be due by. The ballot count will be on the 1st. If it's a close ballot, obviously we'll go back to and get the rest of the ballots in. So yeah, they should have about 2 weeks to make a decision. The actual MOA will be in with the ballot. And again, I think the members were happy because they saw us continuous negotiating. They understood that we were going to the end. And in fact, we pretty much hit the end. We actually put an abeyance on the first lag payroll is being held off for 2 weeks, so that we have the time to take the vote and see where it stands.
Right, because the first one was on April 14th.
Right. It would have been starting on March 28th, and obviously the ballot count's not till April 1st. So they agreed to give us those 2 weeks.
And we're aware of the irony of April 1st.
Yes. Yeah, it's a funny day. And on March 22nd is the date that we have to go in front of the legislature and let them know how we feel. And so far they've been supportive, and I think they'll let, I hope anyway, they'll let what our members say speak, let them decide. That's the ultimate goal, let our members decide what they want.
Good stuff. We'll take a quick break, come back, get into more of the crux of this tentative deal that pretty much averts this lag payroll. Right now, though, 8:16, traffic and weather. Let's go out to the roads and check in with the latest with Nancy Remy.
LI in the AM, telling Long Island's story on air and online at linewsradio.com.
And we are back. It is 8:20. My guest, Brian Macri, is the president of the AME, the Association of Municipal Employees, along with Dan Levler, the vice president, as a tentative deal to avert a lag payroll for some 5,000 county employees now. Under the agreement, the county is going to suspend the $12 million contribution and that to the union's benefit fund this year. Next year, they'll begin repaying the $1 million annually. They never really put that in writing fully, so it was kind of tough to kind of clarify a bit way back. But the $1 million annually, that until the year 2028. And they've also agreed to guarantee that benefit fund reserves, which total about $24 million, will not go below that $12 million line. This was a tough negotiation, as you guys have stated. And, it's interesting. I remember, Brian, when you came onto the scene in July, I mean, obviously this was a tough contract. You guys knew the ramifications since this was a deal from the old regime. So, it's interesting. At least there wasn't any kind of blindsiding and everything else. You knew something was going to be coming up, and as with unions, there are negotiations that would take place. But this is something, when you came on board last summer, you knew you were going to be in for something.
Well, and we could have taken that road of it's in the contract and just moved on and said, well, let's go with the lag. And that would have been the easy way because it was in the contract, but we just never thought it was right for the members. And we wanted to give them, like, we have an option. And I just want to clarify one thing. The benefit fund for AME employees will be about $9.4 million. The rest of the $12 million, so the 2.6 other than that, will still be going into the benefit fund because they're from other unions.
Oh, okay.
So this only affects the AME.
Just the AME people.
Right.
Gotcha.
And not the college either.
Interesting. So, as you kind of, Dan, as you look back on this now, it goes to the members. They have until, April 1st or so. And pretty much, it's and you've gotten some feedback as you've stated, right?
Yeah, certainly. And again, a lot of support for what we were trying to do. And overall, I think we kind of held this position because we wanted to signal to the membership, at the college and AME as a whole. We didn't want to bring anything to anyone that wasn't worthy of their consideration. So, it's the county's job to propose these things, and it's our job to oppose something that doesn't make sense,
Sure,
And
absolutely.
if it means a difficult fight, then it means a difficult fight. That's the job we interviewed for.
Listen, and you're right. Brian, as the two union heads here, I mean, you had a ton of responsibility. You have 5,000 people at stake. Mm-hmm. This was something that you had to do right because, let's face it, county executive comes forth with, this particular situation. He says, listen, here's the deal, guys. I'm sorry. We got deficits. It's got to be this way. And, you guys, you have to say to yourself, listen, even before going into the initial negotiation, listen, I've got to stand my ground here. Mm-hmm. One thing, I'm not putting words in your mouth, but I'm sure you and Dan had conversations.
Oh yeah.
That said, this is our first big one here. Since we're taking over here, we have to get it right, pretty much.
Yeah, and the other big thing is you can't let everything else fall by the wayside. So while you're dealing with this, you have to multitask. And, we have a college that doesn't have a contract for 5 or 6 years. We're trying to work on that. And we're hoping that this opens the door because we're showing that we are willing to negotiate fairly. And as long as we get a fair deal, we'll give it to the members. But we won't, like Dan says, just, throw our members under the bus and make them eat, crow.
And Dan, that was my next question. What else is on the docket for you down the road? But usually those situations where contracts have not been in place for years, are they the toughest types of negotiations to kind of go about? Because there's really nothing on the table at that point in time.
For us right now, I mean, there are always going to be question marks surrounding negotiations. But, as we went through this negotiation, there's still the ongoing negotiation for the college, and there's the pending negotiation for our main contracts. Regardless of how it goes, regardless of, any one person's opinion on our executive board, we worked as a group. We came to the consensus that we wanted to stand our ground, and I think that we've kind of hit our stride in that way. And I believe that we signaled to the county that, we intend to do whatever the hard work is that's necessary to make sure that we get something worthy of our members' consideration.
Brian Macri and Dan Levler, the two heads of state over at AME. That's the largest union, folks, in Suffolk County, the Association of Municipal Employees. Fellas, we'll talk to you down the road, and certainly, keep us posted as far as some of the upcoming deals.
And thanks for having us again, Jay. We appreciate being able to announce on the radio the deal and get more members some knowledge.
Absolutely. We appreciate both. 8:25 right now, traffic and weather. Let's head to our roads and rails and check in with Nancy Rimmy.